And hello, everybody. Welcome to the Paws Up preview. Should I say postseason preview? Because we don't get to do this often, but the FIU baseball team will be competing for a chance to win the Conference USA title as they take on the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers tomorrow at 10 a.m. So get up and early tomorrow morning and watch the Panthers take on the Hilltoppers. It should be a fun one, guys. I'm Jake Gibson, joined alongside my friends and co-hosts Kevin Baral and Jonathan Mayer. Johnny, I know this was recorded the day before. You have a flight to catch, and we wish you nothing but good times in the city of Ruston. Should be a fun trip. And since you're the baseball SID, and I wanted to start off talking about the all conference USA teams, I'll let you take over for this, Johnny. Go ahead and announce the who FIU got on the first and second teams.
Yes, no. So it's 8:00 on a Tuesday. So it's already been announced by Conference USA. So the Panthers had 4 award winners to go along this year. So let's start off with the first award winner. This guy has had a great season once again for an FIU uniform. Our guy, the hit machine, Ryan Guida, was named to the first team all conference. Nice. First ever first team all conference award for Guida. He got second team last year. So he gets first team for FIU. So congratulations to him.
Congrats.
On the second team, the Panthers had 3 award winners, okay? 3 awards. The first one was this man that came in. He's the former Savannah Banana. He hit for the cycle this year. Armando Becerra wins the award.
Well-deserved.
Yes, great for him. Second on the list, and this guy came into FIU on the scene. Tremendous year. He's going to have a great career at FIU and nothing but great things for him. Love watching him play from the leadoff spot. Brylan West gets second team all conference.
All right.
And then finally, the last one is a pitcher for FIU. A lot of pitchers for FIU, a lot of options, but this guy who in a senior year came out of the scene, dominated. Obviously battling with some injuries right now, but overall had a great year. It's Orlando Hernandez, El Duque. Great year, ERA around 1. So those 3 won second team. He gets first team, and
okay,
4 winners. So
where's Alex Ulloa?
Congratulations.
Where's Alex? Where is he?
Alex Ulloa, he is not on the list, unfortunately.
He's not on the list.
Not on the list.
Maybe this is a good segue into talking about some of the snubs that on this list, and I think we have to lead off with Alex Ulloa.
I have a lot of snubs.
You have a lot of snubs. All right, lay them out, Johnny.
Let's
start one by one. Yeah.
Let's talk about the realistic snubs, and that first one is easily Alex Ulloa, who I wrote this preview before these awards came out, and I thought he was honestly a lock for all conference first team. He showed everything he had to, especially in conference play. He was really good, especially to close out conference play. Had a couple home runs in that same Houston game. There weren't many options for shortstop, and Ulloa, I'm really shocked he did not make it even on a conference team to begin with. If he doesn't get drafted or he decides not to go to the team that drafts him, because I'm fairly confident he will get selected, he will come back, and I think he will put up numbers that he put up this season and even better.
Yeah, I will give you. Here's the numbers for him in Conference USA. It's really good. He had 374 with 4 home runs, 18 RBIs, 4 doubles, and 37 hits total. He was one of the top hitters in Conference USA overall. So that's, I think, 374 in what that's 24 games is really, really good. So, coach's vote, but either way, I was kind of surprised by that. I thought that, you take away the defense, and obviously the defense is another question mark, but he's made some great plays this year. Obviously the errors, are noticeable on the stat sheet, but offensively, I would say he's one of the best offensive shortstops in Conference USA. That's a given, and kind of surprised to see him not on the list for FIU this year.
Yeah, you talk about the errors, and that may have been the one thing that held him back this year. He led the conference with 28 errors. That's just, and he will tell you this firsthand, that's just unacceptable from a shortstop, and he has made some amazing plays. He is a very athletic guy, very speed-oriented guy. He's a great player. I'm not going to stop saying that. The guy has underrated power, very, very good in-game power. He's very quick, good contact hitter. And man, I mean, just defensively, it's been a struggle for him this season, especially kind of with balls coming up or to the side. It's just been a struggle. But yeah, 28 errors. Honestly, if there's one thing that held him back from making conference team, I think it was the errors, because you look at who made it. I believe it was the Jack State shortstop who made it. I don't think he had as many errors as Uyola. Now, maybe a move to third base would benefit Uyola. He has a great, amazing arm. I think that's something that could definitely help him. But again, there's a world where I definitely still see him playing shortstop every day, and maybe another season under his belt could do wonders for him.
Who are some other snubs you have, Kevin?
I think the other one, and I think Johnny 100% will agree, it's Zach Lampton. He was amazing. I know he had a 3.1 ERA, but I think it may have been more or less the conference play in specific that really held him back from winning this award. Johnny, maybe you could just clarify those stats with me, but I know it's a lot better in non-conference slates.
I mean, his stats, so he had a 4.26 ERA in 19 innings pitched in Conference USA, but he did have 2 wins on that line. But yeah, I think that can see it from there. But I mean, you talked about it. He had an unbelievable year. I mean, a shout out. I mean, it doesn't count a conference play, but he shoved against Iowa this weekend and helped him get the win. There's that effect as well. But I was kind of surprised by that. But those are snubs, and unfortunately, he was kind of one of them. But I thought he had a tremendous year. Should have deserved to be on second team for sure.
Well, all right. Congratulations to the members of FIU baseball. You got one more snub?
And I think Johnny may agree with this one. Conference USA Newcomer of the Year. Brylan West did not win that award, and I think that was a robbery. He deserved it. He had one hell of a season. I know he didn't make first team, but I think this award is just solely based off of newcomers to this conference. Yeah. And he performed. He performed big time. And Johnny, I don't know if you have those conference stats with you. I don't. Who ended up winning that award, anyways?
It was Michael Delato from Dallas Baptist. I don't know. I think I'm pronouncing his last name
wrong. Was this just a Dallas Baptist sweep? Far as
it was a big Dallas Baptist.
But yeah, I mean, look. So Brown played in 19 games out of 24, but he hit 349. He had 25 RBI, 6 home runs. That's 9 doubles and a triple in conference play. So I mean, he was just firing up conference play. And I thought, he came out of the gates and was one of the best hitters for FIU. He won Conference USA Player of the Week his first weekend. I mean, he was a guy that I think just his presence was so good to the lineup and made a difference. So I was surprised. He was a little bit shocked he didn't make that, but I think he should have won it just because of how good of an offensive year he had at the dish.
And he's not your typical leadoff guy either. I mean, for the most part, he's a big guy, in terms of just his height. He's a strong player. I mean, you look at Brylan West and you think he's a cleanup guy or a number 2 hitter. He's been leading off for the Panthers almost every single game he's played in this season. I think maybe early on they made a couple changes to the lineup that were then reverted back once again. I think the only other snub maybe was Keyshawn Fred. The power he showed in conference play was impressive, but I don't think it was enough of. It's just worth noting that he didn't make the Conference USA team. But I don't think it's one like, an Alex Uyola.
Mm-hmm. All righty then. Congratulations to those who did make the first and second teams. Of course, Ryan Guida, 2-time Paws Up podcast legend, and then the second team, Brylan West, Armando Becerra, and Orlando Hernandez. All of course, well deserving, and we wish them the best of luck against the Hilltoppers. So let's get back on track with the Paws Up preview. So FIU is entering this.
Hold up.
We're holding up.
It's very brief, but FIU did play Iowa this weekend.
Yeah, that's what I was going to lead off with.
Okay. I just want to get to that.
I did want to mention they're 26-28, which is 5 more wins than what they had last year, right? Mm-hmm. They're coming off a fabulous win on Thursday, 2-1. Super. It wasn't high octane, but FIU's bullpen, relievers, and closers all look pretty damn phenomenal on Thursday. Friday was a wash. Saturday began close, and FIU had the lead to start that game, but then it turned into a wash later on. So some good to take away, some bad to take away, like a $9 subscription to Big Ten Plus to watch this. I mean, that wasn't nice, but there were some positives to take away from this series against Iowa, especially in that Thursday game where pitching-wise, that was some of the best pitching no joke. Maybe I've seen FIU perform this entire season against a very, very solid Big Ten opponent in the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Yeah, I was really proud of the team. I mean, Iowa came in there. They're not one of the best offensive teams. They don't have power, but it's a Power 5 team. And FIU came in there. Iowa had 9 hits, but FIU only gave up a run. And I was really happy with how the pitching did. Logan Rundy was great in his return. Jaden Bishop, he had a career high in innings pitch, only gave up 1 run, which was a solo shot, and he was able to retire the last batters he faced. Zach Lampton is Zach Lampton. Kabarkas came in there. He inherited a runner at third. He struck out the guy in the 8th, and then he loaded the bases with 2 outs, got a big strikeout to end the 9th. He was terrific. And I think with a game like this look, obviously the last 2 games were on rules, but you did win a game on that Thursday night. And I think for FIU, it would have been more of a sour taste if you got swept by Sam Houston to go to the conference tournament. For them to play a Power 5 team in Iowa to head into conference tournament I think was good for them because they were able to face some Power 5 and high quality pitchers. So now you go to the conference tournament and you say to yourself, hey, we saw some, better guys over the weekend. These conference USA guys are a little bit different. So I think this was actually benefited them because they already got a winner against Iowa. So I think this was a good opportunity for them to play a Power 5 team before heading out for the postseason play.
Yeah, I think the game to zone in on was that first one, especially with who was on the mound, and I know it was 1 inning, but Brody Breck is a first round pick, folks. Yeah. Maybe early second round pick, but that guy throws some gas. It was 96.
Yeah,
and not even going with the fastball for the most part. It's more of a slider type thing from him, and tried to get some swing and miss. And FIU played the patient game. They loaded up the bases. They walked in a run. So have to give them, prep. You have to give them, credit where credit is due. They faced that guy very well, but pitching came in clutch as well in that game, and that's really you wish that was the last game of the season to set the tone even better. But you had Ulloa going deep, you had Ryland going deep, so 2 there.
We had a 3-hit game on Saturday.
Huh?
We had a 3-hit game on Saturday.
You take that too, right? So
18 doubles, 6 more for the record.
How 6 more?
Yeah,
he could get it. He could get it.
It's possible. By the way, not to mention the fact that game was played in a minor league ballpark with pretty big dimensions overall. Principal Park in Des Moines, 335 left field, 400 center, and then 335 right field. Louisiana Tech's dimensions are a little bit smaller every side. 315 left field at Patterson Park, 380 at center field, and then 325 right field is what FIU will be experiencing. So it's nice that their bats were still clicking every now and then in obviously a professional ballpark that they were in Des Moines. Like I said, that final game against Iowa, FIU came out first. They had a 1-0 lead, but the 3rd inning was when things started to really go bad for FIU, and then the 4th inning, they gave up 9 runs in 1 inning. So
yeah, and
I don't think any of us want to talk about the Friday game either.
Yeah, I think we really need to focus on these last 2 weeks of play, maybe even 3. It's just it's disappointing because they got off to such a good start, and I know Mayor doesn't want to talk negatives here, but we have to a little bit because the way they ended the season is just really disappointing. And I know there's injuries involved in that. Orlando Hernandez,
there was
with him. Kabarkas was out. Rundy has been out, and those are 3 guys who've been crucial to your season, especially guys who've given you a lot of innings. So definitely tough there, but you look at it, the offense still looked really good. You faced one hell of a Dallas Baptist team who, man, honestly, if you had to put in a prediction, they may win this whole thing. Doesn't matter what seed they are.
Yeah.
But thankfully, FIU gets to avoid them at least 1 game for now.
At least 1 game.
And they avoid Ryan Johnson, who was the Conference USA Pitcher of the Year. So they get to avoid that matchup there. And we'll talk about what is honestly a very favorable matchup for FIU. But it definitely tough to end the season the way they did. They had huge leads against St. Houston, blew them all. But knowing the way this first game may go, they're going to put it all in there in that first game. They're going to go, and we could talk strategy soon with how this tournament works, and we could describe it a little bit. I'll let Johnny do that in a bit. But they're going to have to go all in the game 1, but keep enough in the tank for game 2. And you may see a couple guys go back-to-back games here, which was something Witten did not do too much of this season.
And that's where the challenge of being a champion in one of these baseball tournaments is that you have to make sure you have enough left in the tank after game one, after you put your heart and soul into making sure you move on to the next round, that you have enough to take on who will obviously be a much better and tougher opponent, being more than likely being the Dallas Baptist Patriots in game two. In that Thursday game, Logan Rundy, Jaden Bishop, Zach Lampton, and Ryan Kabarkis all through that game, and they all looked absolutely phenomenal. Jaden Bishop went 3 innings, was the only Panther that gave up a run. Aside from that, Logan Rundy, 2 near perfect innings. Zach Lampton, also 2 really good innings, and then Kabarkis was the closer, and he did his job. So some great pitching on that game specifically. And with that said, just in general about this FIU baseball team, I think we can all agree at this point. Hitting wise, I think they're a phenomenal team. They got some absolute dogs on their batting order. It's when you get to the starters and the bullpen, and sometimes the closers, that the basically pitching overall, that sometimes this FIU team has tend to faltered this season, and that's why there's probably 5, 6, 7 losses on FIU's schedule that can be credited to, well, the the offense did enough. It was the pitching that kind of let this team down. Not to mention some very questionable, and that's what I really want to talk about right now, the questionable mistakes that FIU has made fielding wise. They have, okay, well, Kevin has vominosed, but he I guess he didn't want me to hear that FIU has committed 91 errors fielding, which is the most in Conference USA, and it's not even close compared to second place in Middle Tennessee, which has 75. So, Johnny, just how negatively has the errors that FIU's defense has committed, how much has that affected this team, and how can they sort of alleviate that before tomorrow's game?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's big. It's been crucial. It's impacted the season from a standpoint of look at the numbers. I mean, FIU has 317 earned runs, but they have a total of 424 that are just runs. So you look at those numbers, and a lot of those runs that they've given up are given up by errors. So a lot of the impacts on the defense has led to FIU giving up free bases, 3 runs, which just kind of killed them. You look at the numbers, no, not to beat around the bush, but FIU is bottom in the nation in fielding percentage. It's you look at the numbers, it's true in the case like that. So unfortunately, that's been kind of not it's been a big weakness for FIU, and you can credit, there's wins that could be going their way if their fielding was done, better. But look, they've had games where their fielding has been really great, and fielding it hasn't been great. So I think when you look at this game tomorrow, you want to be able to kind of get ahead and make those plays, but at the same time, you do know that your offense is very, very good. And you want to be able to put your offense in a good spot where they're able to score runs, and then your pitching and defense can kind of do just enough to hold on. Because you look at the history with Western Kentucky this year, FIU won the series on the road, and they won it because of their offense. So I think for FIU, the fielding has struggled, but at the same time, you have to use what works. And one thing that works for them is how great this offense is, and kind of facilitate that with the pitching and defense.
And a lot of that's going to do with the lineup that they'll run out there. There's many ways they could go with this lineup. We've seen them go many ways, and a lot of that's going to rely on who's at third base, because and honestly, I think it'll be Brylan West, but Brylan this season, and I know Yola has 28 errors. I think Brylan is maybe like right behind them. So
I'll double check that.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see who will be at third. We know Jeff has actually looked really good at first, so I'm not too worried about that. And second in errors is Brylan West with 10. So, yeah, definitely I'll be interested. Obviously, putting Brylan at third opens another spot in the lineup, because you bring Jeff to first, you get to add another outfielder into your lineup. So I'll be interested to see what they do. Another thing that's really interesting is going to be, and obviously I think we'll go into this a little bit later, but just who's going to be in that 4 and 5 spot. And Jake, you noted this, I think last time we went to a game, which was that UM game, Yola and LaCory really flip-flopping.
They constantly flip.
Yeah, that, and then where you're going to have Jeff in the line, because he really struggled at the start of the season in that I think it was either 2 or 3 guy, but then you put him down to 5 or 6, it was really a benefit for him. So we'll see what happens there. But aside from that, definitely fielding's been a tough aspect for FIU this season. And it's really not. I'm not going to say a one-man show, but it's just like everyone in some sort of aspect. The outfield defense has been really good. They've been tough. They haven't really been able to turn too many double plays this season. Right now, they are in the conference 1, 2, 3. They are set third to last in turning double plays, but thankfully for them, the competition is even lower. So it'll help them out a little bit, probably in this first game.
We have seen some absolutely insane catches that FIU's outfield has made. In this Iowa series alone, players like Keyshawn Fred and Jeff Ligori put on a show with some of the catches that they were able to make. So let's talk a bit about what needs to go right for FIU on offense, because you have players like Mr. Reliable in Ryan Guida, who's entering this game with a crazy hitting streak. I believe it was a 32 game on base streak with 9 homers, 55 RBIs this season. He's once again proven that he has become one of the most dominant hitters FIU's offense has had in a very long time. He's obviously, I feel like he's going to get his opportunities against Western Kentucky, just like how he got his opportunities against the Hilltoppers back in the series. I believe, what was it, like late March against the Hilltoppers over in Bowling Green. So aside from those players, which are more than likely going to get their numbers, like West and like Guida, who do you think really needs to play some of their best baseball this entire season to assist some of the more reliable batters on this lineup? And Kevin, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I'll name 2. And I think it's 2 guys who've looked really good this season. It's just they haven't been really recognized as much as they should. Brendan Roney's had a very nice offensive season for him at catcher. I know he struggled a little bit last season. He played very well against Miami in all the games he did play. I think he only played 2 of them, I want to say. And then you have to talk about Chase Engelhardt. He was out for a long time this season due to, I think it was a sickness or an injury in there. It was combined 2 of them there. But yeah, that was definitely a huge loss. And I don't think he ended up being a qualified hitter this season. But during conference play, he definitely is going to have to step it up. And he really proved himself as one of the 9 players at FIU who hits over 300 this season. So
yeah,
that's definitely the one thing that stands out about this FIU offense. But yeah, those are the 2 guys I'll note.
The tough thing about Brendan Roney, as you mentioned, what's the likelihood that they don't go with Roney at catcher and they'll instead go with Nick Patelli, who has also who's put up solid numbers in the games he has played. And I feel like FIU has been utilizing Patelli more in the latter end of this season. So what are the odds that we see Patelli over Roney?
I'll let Johnny go with that one.
I think it's kind of a mix. I think, depending on the batter, obviously if they have a righty, they'll go, I think it's here and there, but I think it's more in the matchups. I kind of think of Brendan Rooney and Nick Patelli kind of like they're kind of very evenly stacked. I think there's good competition in the catching group. And I think you want to have a lefty catcher and a righty catcher. I think that benefits both sides, and they can do a lot of things with it. But I don't think there's any indication that one guy is better. I think they're evenly matched based on Nick Patelli's improvement of play this year and just Rooney's consistent, on the catching side, and also could have the good bat as well and down in the lineup.
And I do think with Patelli specifically, and we saw this early on, he hadn't played too much with, Medina playing over him. Obviously, Medina goes down for the remainder of the season. You have someone like a Patelli who maybe not many teams are really familiar with. We saw the walk-off against FGCU. He had the homer in that same game the week before. He had all that madness, and he looked really good for the most part. So he's been one of the mainstays in this FIU lineup, but we saw late in the season, and specifically that Miami game, he had been struggling a little bit, especially in, the Sam Houston game. So they went with Rooney to pinch hit over him in one of those Miami game. So yeah, definitely. I think it'll be Rooney game 1 if I have to guess, and then maybe Patelli game 2. Again, there's a lot of ways you could go with this. You could go with Rooney both games, Patelli both games. It just depends who you like more behind the plate or who the pitcher feels better with. And a lot of that is going to be who's going to start game 1 because. And we'll talk about all these scenarios in a bit because you could go with even a Kabarkis game 1. You feel like that's your guy, that's your best pitcher. But yeah, there's a lot of ways this FIU squad could go.
Let's. I was gonna want to talk about that now. Who will likely pitch in tomorrow's game? Kevin, we had a conversation about this a couple hours before about the idea of some of your more reliable hands like Knox and Pinheiro, who have put up some absolutely really great statistics for FIU's starters overall. And again, we've talked about how sometimes the pitching has let this team down, but you still find reliability in players like Knox and Pinheiro. So I'll ask you, because I feel like you know better than anyone here, who should be the starter for tomorrow's game?
Yeah, it's a tough one, and I've been thinking about it because Pinheiro's stats definitely I don't think represent what he's done this season. You had the blow up against FAU, you threw him in there against Iowa, so I think those two games really have blown up his stats out of proportion. And then Cam Knox has been really good, but he just and I don't know maybe why. Obviously, he was a reliever when he joined FIU. He's a guy who could go 4, but hasn't really shown that he could go over 5 innings, and that's really an issue there. Depends who you're going to follow him up with, or who you're going to follow up who with. Man, honestly, maybe Johnny already knows, but I'm going to say Joel Pinheiro should start game 1 of this Conference USA tournament. He's been the more successful overall pitcher. Cam Knox struggled a little bit against Sam Houston in his last start. He struggled against Iowa now. So did Pinheiro, but I don't think there's a wrong choice by any means. But if you're all in, you could go with Pinheiro, maybe followed up by Ryan Kabarkis.
Yeah, I think for FIU in this case is they want to be able to find the matchups. I think that they know that Kabarkis is better out of the bullpen. You have a guy like Logan Rundy. For me, I think you want length, but you also want to be able to be strategic. You want to win the games. I think up front, they're going to want their best pitchers. There's a reason why they use their best guys on Thursday, and obviously they helped on for the win. But I can see a guy like Logan Rundy getting some time. I can see a Lampton going middle innings. I can see Kabarkis going late. I think for FIU, you don't want to stretch them out, but also you have to understand that these guys are key. I can see Pinheiro. He's more of a guy that's more a game 2 type of starter because he doesn't have the length, but I think FIU knows that. The best stuff is up front. That's Ryan Kabarkis, Logan Rundy, that's Zach Lampton. So I see those 3 in particular going tomorrow morning. And then after that, it's who's. But I think that for FIU, they want to get the best guys going forward because you can't afford yourself to be in a spot where you lose game 1. You have to win every single game next up. I think FIU wants to come out, win tomorrow morning, and keep that momentum going right after.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing too, and I'll let Johnny, I think I'll ask you, How does this tournament exactly work? And I'll show the bracket now, but this isn't your usual one and done tournament. FIU loses tomorrow, they have a chance at getting back into things.
That's the best thing about baseball and these sports in particular is that it's double elimination. So in order to leave the tournament, you have to lose 2 games. So we see the bracket here. So there's 2 sides of the bracket. You see FIU 6-3, DBU and New Mexico State. That's the 2-6 game. So the winner of FIU, Western Kentucky, and then DBU and New Mexico State will take on each other. You look close. That'll be tomorrow or Wednesday at 12:30. However, the loser of those games of Western Kentucky, FIU, and DBU, New Mexico State, they'll play the loser bracket. And you can see that. You see where it says loser of game. Where's that? Yeah, game 1 and 2 will be on the bottom. But basically for FIU, right there, they'll play at 9 o'clock, game 1 and 2 in the middle. So that's kind of how it works. Essentially, is that whoever loses that game on the top left will play each other to kind of stay in the tournament. So basically for FIU, gives an opportunity to keep on going, but at the same time, you kind of get hot at the right time. So I'm excited to see how this bracket falls for FIU starting tomorrow.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say if this
is the big thing in this tournament, and I'm going to quickly take one more look at this bracket to make sure I'm speaking right. Man, you hope, you pray New Mexico State pulls the upset against Ryan Johnson and DBU, because if FIU wins, you got to go the next day without your best pieces against DBU, without a Lampton, without a Kabarkis, without a Rundy, as Johnny was mentioning, unless you want to go this first game.
But also FIU,
you would see in a game 2 scenario, and maybe
the thing about it is, you're not most likely you're not going to see Ryan Johnson in the next game, but you will have to face the DBU offense. FIU did, the second game against DBU when we played them, we got swept. We played competitively against them, so I would say from FIU's perspective, you're more worried about the pitching side than I think the offense for DBU, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think for FIU, you're going to have to face DBU at some point. If you take them out early, you have a better shot of making a chance down the line. That's kind of what I'm thinking. If we do win and DBU we're in that second game on Wednesday afternoon, Yeah, but you could bump them out, and that gives you a shot. So I think for FIU, you want to take the best scenario. I think you want to have them early than later. So we'll see if that favors FIU. But you never know if Mexico State in there and bumps them out of there, and all of a sudden you see FIU and Mexico State taking on one another, which would be very, very wild since FIU swept Mexico State in April.
That was a crazy series too, and
that was so weird.
We won't get ahead of ourselves because most likely, I think we all know what's going to happen here in this tournament. But FIU was up 10-0 against New Mexico State, I believe, twice, and both times they blew the lead in games 1 and 2. They led in all 3 games. They blew the lead and then they came back. So unless I believe maybe game 3 was a run rule win, but yeah. So and then there's the scenario with DBU where maybe they don't go Ryan Johnson game 1. They have such good pitching they could go with that really any of their guys.
Yeah.
And you save Ryan Johnson you feel so confident you're going to move on in this tournament. You go with Ryan Johnson against FIU, who dominated FIU, or then
that would stink.
Ryan Johnson, and if you dominate FIU, you get past WKU or FIU. You go again with him in a tournament clinching scenario to get to the championship game. Something along those lines. There's many. This is why this tournament is a little bit more different, or we're having this conversation unlike the basketball tournament where you're going a little different, or softball. FIU has the chance to really go a different route with this team or this pitching staff, and I think the offense will be the same. That's not going to change by any means. It's really going to be what are you going to do in terms of the pitching staff, and that's really where the conversation lies, and what I think all 3 of us have been talking about this past month leading up to the tournament.
To quickly speak on both DBU and New Mexico State. For DBU, their pitching staff is amazing. FIU has only been shut out once this entire season, and it was against DBU on the Sunday finale.
They got no hit.
They got no hit. So that's tough. To have such a stacked batting rotation that FIU does and still find a way to get no hit is still something. By the way, it's crazy that FIU took on New Mexico State and Dallas Baptist back to back in April. They took on 6 straight games against 2 opponents that they will likely take on if they either win or lose against Western Kentucky. And as far as New Mexico State, that series was weird. When we had Austin Deering on the podcast back on April the 3rd, it was actually after that, but we had spoken with someone, right? And they had talked about the altitude, how weird the altitude was in Las Cruces, how that led to such insane scores that you see in that New Mexico State series. Now, Ruston, Louisiana is so utterly different from Las Cruces, New Mexico, as far as altitude that, I can't see a crazy double-digit against double-digit score like we saw in the Aggie series. But regardless, I think it's a little too early to talk about Dallas Baptist and New Mexico State because we have the team that we're going to talk about now. It's the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers, who, unlike the Panthers, are actually going into this series on a high note because they're currently 34-20. However, they won their last 2 games of the season against New Mexico State. Convenient enough, they win the series over the Aggies to close out the regular season. So they're a good squad, but the fact that FIU not only has experience playing them, but experience beating them, like convincingly, definitely, I think we're all in agreement. Of all the opponents FIU could have played in the first round, Western Kentucky might be the most favorable for the Panthers just overall.
Yeah, you could have wished they kind of went up against like a New Mexico State, but again, I think you're facing a Western team that maybe has outperformed expectations.
Yeah.
And this is something I've spoken to with other people. They are a team that is good, don't get me wrong, but they may be the frauds of this tournament. I think that's the way I'll put it. Their offense is not what you may think that it is. They only have one guy hitting over 300 in this offense, only one guy with an OPS over 900, 2 guys with an OPS over 800. So it's really a one-man offense here. Their pitching staff is good. Again, FIU really got to them. They don't have they only have 1 qualified pitcher this season, so it's really been a team effort with the pitching staff. Again, FIU has a decent amount of guys qualified. I think Cabarcas, Cabarcas, like Pinheiro, Knox. I think all those guys are qualified. Johnny, you could correct me, but it's definitely a good situation for FIU. This could have been by far the best situation now that they're going to be the away team in this tournament. So
Who's the away team? FIU or Western?
FIU, yeah. FIU's the
Okay.
60th. So I think they would be
Right,
the away
right,
team in this
right.
case. But yeah, they're
Does
playing.
that really make a big impact, honestly, being the away team? It just
No,
all it really means is they're going to be wearing their gray uniforms. But beyond that,
formality. It's a formality.
yeah.
But yeah, FIU has themselves a good shot. I think they have a really, really good chance to beat this Western team. And Johnny, I don't know what happened in 2018, but FIU may have a chance to get a little further than they did that year.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while, which can be noted. FIU last been in the tournament in 2018. That was last time after their first.
That was my freshman year, dog.
That's there we go.
Jay, and for context, Jake has now graduated, and it's been over a year.
It's been a while since they've last been.
So looking at it, so FIU, when they went into Conference USA, they made the tournament the first 5 years. After 2018, they did not make the conference tournament. And looking at the numbers for FIU in 2018, they got bounced really quickly. They lost the 2 games they played in, and that was it. They lost to FAU, and they lost to La Tech. So not favorable since then. But FIU did win in 2015 the tournament. Mind you, that FIU 2015 team was pretty underachieving. If I look at their numbers, how FIU came into the tournament. FIU coming in, their record was 25-28 when they were in the tournament in 2015. They won all 4 games to become champions and eventually went to the Coral Gables Regional. So with that being said, FIU was 13-17 in Conference USA in 2015. They won every 4 games. So with that being said, it's a tournament where anyone can come in there and do some damage. I think for FIU, you look at the record, you're like, okay, 11-13, something. They didn't have the great stuff. But overall, you look at the offense, we have, six guys total that are hitting over 300 from a qualified setting. You have pitchers that have good moments. For FIU, it feels like right now the offense hasn't had that it factor yet. They've had stretches, but they haven't had the it factor in this downward of a season. I think FIU, they have to get hot at the right time, get the offense going. I think right now they have met that mark to get the offense going this week. Maybe I have an eerie feeling that this offense didn't show enough because they were preparing for this tournament. That's kind of my senses that I feel like. So I think for FIU, they're underdogs for sure because of their record, but I think they're a big sleeper in this tournament just because they have a lot of pedigree. And I think a lot of teams don't see that just because of the look of how pitching has gone and how they just had some things that don't go their way. So that's me.
So FIU run ruled them.
FIU
run ruled them in their first game. Then WKU dropped 14 on them. But the last game, FIU did beat them 7-3. So it's really a toss-up, but I do think FIU favors just themselves a little more with the offense. Western's pitching is not very good, in my opinion. Look at right now, ERA. Western has they have the 4th highest and the 4th lowest in the conference. I'm sorry. FIU's just behind them. So, definitely good chance to put themselves in a position where they could win.
By the way, to go off of something that Johnny said a couple minutes ago, that there's a reason why every baseball team says this is a new season entering the conference tournament. This is a new baseball season because records be damned aside. It depends on how well every aspect of your team can play now in the postseason, because this is obviously when it matters the most, because the winner of this tournament gets an automatic ticket to the regionals for a chance to win the NCAA title, which, I mean, for FIU to do that'd be an absolutely absurd thing. Now, pitching wise for Western Kentucky, they as far as who could be their starter, they brought out Jack Bennett in the first game. He kind of got shelled. They brought out Jacob Binby in the second game, and he looked really solid for 4 innings and only 2 earned runs given up. And then they brought out Drew Whalen in the third game, and he played okay, but it was Lucas Littoral that got the loss in the final game. He got shelled. So how do you think Western Kentucky is going to attack this? I don't want to say murderer's row, but definitely a very scary batting order that FIU has. How are they going to attack this?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think Western's a good team, but their pitching struggled. Honestly, they may go with the guy they went with in the one game they won, I'm not sure exactly who that may have been, but I know they have one qualified guy, so they may go with him.
I believe it was Bimby who got the win in game number 2.
So maybe they go with him. Maybe they go with the guy they won in game 1 to get a couple innings. Maybe now he knows the lineup a little bit better. There's many ways they could go with this.
As far as hitting wise for the Hilltoppers, you have your infielder Blake Cavil. I believe that's how you say it, Cavil.
These are one guy who's hitting over 300.
7 home runs, 44 RBIs. He has an OPS of over 900, which is really, really solid. You had mentioned this in your preview for the game, Kevin, but 5 players on the tops have an OPS above 800, but only 4 of them are actual hitters. So it's a bit interesting to look at it like that. So as far as players, FIU fans should keep an eye out for the Hilltoppers. Of course, you have Blake. You have Camden Ross, who, again, 34 RBI is a very solid hitter. Aside from that, who can really cause some damage for FIU's pitchers?
I think it's the one guy you mentioned, Cavalli. I mean, that guy is really freaking good. So I'll go with him. And then
did he make the first team?
I don't know. Did he, Johnny?
Who?
Blake Cavil from Western. Did he make anything?
Check.
He must have made one of the teams, dude.
Considering he's like the face of Western Kentucky's bats, I feel like he's got to have some sort of recognition.
He did not make any team, actually.
Wow. Did anyone from Western Kentucky make anything?
Just one player, Dawson Hall.
Oh, really?
One guy.
Damn. Okay, good to know.
Andrew Whalen, who's on the freshman team. So yeah, Western Kentucky had 2 selections.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Something to note, I guess. By the way, I don't know how much this will actually play into this game at all. It might not at all, but obviously you want to have the experience of playing in Reston to know what that ballpark is like, because obviously that'll play a key part in this game as well. FIU, when they took on Louisiana Tech, it was at home, and they actually beat the Bulldogs. I feel like it was one of the nicer Conference USA series that FIU was a part of this season, was when they knocked out Louisiana Tech, who at the time was one of the best teams in baseball. Meanwhile, Western Kentucky did travel to Ruston this season, and they got swept by the Bulldogs. I believe that was back in early May. So I don't know if experience of playing in Louisiana Tech's digs will have anything to do with this.
So Johnny gets a good opportunity, as well as a very nice press box, I heard. So you'll have your good shot there, Johnny. Know you're doing pictures and all that stuff. You're gonna have yourself a crazy day over there. But
what time's your flight tomorrow, Johnny?
Wait, I thought I'm already there.
Okay, well, keep in mind this is pre-recorded.
Okay, so we leave tomorrow to go to Ruston 3:30 in the morning.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I'll have to be going to bed very soon.
Well, then we won't keep you on for too much longer.
To wrap it up,
need your beauty sleep, Johnny. But all right. So with that said, Kevin, this is a difficult question for you to answer, and it's detailed for you to answer. In your opinion, what is the perfect starting lineup for the Panthers in this game against the Tops? Obviously, you have some of the more reliable pieces. Like obviously, you have Brylan leading off. You have Ryan at the 3. Who would you have at the 4 between LaCory or Alua?
Let me take a look at a couple of these lineups. I remember the UM one, and I really like that one. Yeah, the UM one I think is the one they should go with, except just have Rooney in there for Patelli. And
the one that they won against the Canes that I was not at.
Well, that's very crucial. No, you were not there, so okay. They lost every other game you were.
I'm not going to be at Ruston, so I mean maybe.
So I would say the one that they lost in the 6-5 game, but it really doesn't matter who you go 4 or 5 in this case. Coach likes to move them up and down, whatever. It doesn't really matter. But perfect lineup, I can't say, but I do think we should start to wrap it up.
So that lineup, by the way,
the time thing.
You have Brylan at the 1, but Armando at the 2, Ryan 3. LaCory at 4, Ulola at 5, Engelhardt at 6, AD at 7, Keyshawn at 8, and then Nick Patelli as your catcher.
I would go Rooney.
You would go Rooney. Okay.
Personally, I like that lineup a lot.
Yeah, and then you had
Kevin Martin. One thing to note as well is I think that shows the depth is Keyshawn Fred hitting 8th. And I know Keyshawn is, obviously he showed he had some struggles this year, but he does have the power. 15 home runs or 14 home runs this year, which leads the team. So he's another guy. He's an X factor in this series this year because if he I can't speak. If he's able to hit home runs, he can be a big threat. And to note, Keyshawn does have hit 3 home runs against West Kentucky this year. So I'm just saying, don't be surprised if Keyshawn hits home runs this week. I think he'll have a big game 1. I think he goes for a home run against Western tomorrow morning. Just saying.
Okay. By the way, a 10 a.m. start, could that
9 o'clock there?
9 o'clock there. Could that positively or negatively affect the team at all? They've had a couple of noon starts this season, but a 10 Eastern start definitely seems a bit unexpected as far as how early it actually is.
That's true.
It's true. Alrighty then. So let's start to wrap things up here with the question that I have to ask that we all got to answer, preferably with a score. Who is winning this game between the Panthers and the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers? Kevin, let's start with you. Take it away. Who's winning this game?
I'll keep it short and sweet. I think FIU does beat the Hilltoppers. I'm not going to say convincingly, but definitely I'll go 5-3 win. FIU wins.
5-3. 5-3. I like the positivity. Johnny, we'll go with you next. Who is winning this game between the Panthers
know what he's
and the
going to say.
Tops?
Come on.
All right, what's the score?
I'll say Panthers win 7-5.
7-5. That'd be an exciting game.
Yeah.
7-5. I will say
morning baseball,
I would love to be the negative one that goes against FIU just to have something different happen for a change. But I actually do feel confident that the Panthers will bring out some of their finest batting against the Tops. I feel like it's going to be an offensive kind of game. Both the pitching for both teams will not be amazing, but the bats will go off. I'm going to say, God, I actually really like the 7-5 final score. I'm going to go 6-4. 6-4 Panthers win. So we're all very confident that the FIU will get the job done regardless. So that's nice. That's nice to see. So again, 9 a.m. CT. That's 10 a.m. Eastern. Game is on ESPN Plus. It's the Panthers and the Hilltoppers. Any final thoughts before we get this game going in the morning?
I'm pumped. I'm pumped. Finally, get to see
early
the season. It's a group that deserves it. They've been great with us, so I'm very excited. And Johnny is going to get us some good content over there. I know he will. And
he'll be running around.
He'll be running around, and he'll be assisting us over here from Miami with whatever coverage.
Not having to go to Ruston. Is Ruston that's northern Louisiana?
I wish I was there, man. I really do, but yeah.
Is it swampy in Ruston, or is it like foresty in Ruston?
I mean, I heard there's not a whole lot to do in Ruston, but we'll make the most of it. There is baseball going on in Ruston. That's all I know.
That's all you know, and that's all you want to see. There's a lot of baseball for the Panthers as they look to win that title.
Yep.
Alrighty, fellas. It was nice. It was nice previewing because again, this is something that doesn't happen a lot. So best of luck to the Panthers as they look to take down the Tops.
Every year, we'll be doing it every year now.
We'll be doing it every year. Let's make this a common formality. Previewing FIU in the Conference USA tournament. So good luck to the Panthers. Go watch them. Support the team. And as always, Paws up.
Yes, sir.